Hello and welcome to episode 6 of the Ask Ryu show. It's been almost a week, I think, since I recorded an episode. Um, haven't been as many questions on the AMA thread as there have been on Twitter, and I was planning to kind of gather a bunch from the thread on the forums, just kind of keep things balanced. And so I'll take a couple from the forums, and then I'm going to jump back over to Twitter anyway. Just like I said, the quantity of questions from the thread hasn't been what I was expecting. So this will probably be a little bit of a shorter episode, but I wanted to make sure I got one done. I'm currently waiting on the last piece of the puzzle for my new gaming PC, which I'm really hyped about. I haven't had a new computer and sounds kind of sad, but it's almost 4 years. So I'm pretty hyped about building this new PC. And that CPU should be here probably in the next couple of hours. And then I'll spend some time building it. Hopefully I'll start streaming. Got the FPL to look forward to. Um, which I think I'll get some questions on that eventually. Haven't had them yet. Anyway, I don't want to ramble too much and go kind of off track. So I'm going to start with the first question that came in um, from somebody on the forums who's under the alias Hitman. It's not the Hitman you think it is. And they said they think they have the potential to call and be an IGL at freeze time, but when they try to call, they can't frag. They don't seem to be good at multitasking. And how do they learn to call and frag at the same time, like somebody like Happy does for Envious? Um, that's a very, very tough thing to do. As someone that did that last season and I've done it before in my career, it's extremely difficult to lead a team, to call in game, to have to think for other players at the same time that you need to be doing what you need to do, right? And focusing on what's on your screen and your positioning and your crosshair placement and all that kind of good stuff. So, that being said, one thing Happy does that's a little different than what some of the other IGLs do is he lurks. So he doesn't have as much going on mentally to process as somebody that's like the second in or a support player that's very close to the action that needs to hit their smokes and line things up and get players in the right position. You know, he calls and then he tends to be on the other side of the map. So he's kind of like, all right, you guys are going to do this thing that we have set. Go do that, and then I'm going to go here and try to pick off rotates. Might be something you may try. I don't know what your role is on the team that you play for today, but that's something you could consider doing is maybe switch to more of a lurking role where you're at a distance from a lot of the action. And then what you do isn't as involved and as kind of quick paced as what your teammates are doing, right? Because you're kind of sitting there trying to pick off rotates on the T side of the map. When it comes to calling for CT side, there shouldn't be too much mid round calling that you're doing to impact your fragging, unless you guys have like no setups, no set rotates whatsoever. It should be pretty. It should be pretty configured in advance where you can say, okay, this round we're going to do this setup, and people know that, hey, if it's on dust 2 and our B guy gets picked, maybe the cat player drops down, rotates, and tries to defend the mid to B. You know, there should be a little bit of that done in practice as opposed to in real time. But for T side, I would consider maybe doing what Happy does and lurk and try calling from that position and see how it goes. And hopefully that'll help you out a bunch. This question came in from Karma on Twitter. How do I favor the execute versus default pick-based approaches to T-halves, and when do you vary based on reactive plays by the CTs? I think a lot goes into the decision of how you're going to play. Like who you're playing is one. If you think that you're better than them is one. Um, the style of the team you're playing is also one, right? Because I know if our team is going to play an IM team in a qualifier for something online, we'll probably be a little bit pick heavy. We'll probably play defaults and then just try to out aim a lot of who we're playing against because we'll have better aim. They'll probably make mistakes. They're probably going to take challenges and we're going to win them, that kind of thing. Um, when we favor execute, if we're playing a team like Luminosity, they've got such discipline that they're not going to give you early picks. They're not going to make a mistake and step into the open and give you a chance to take a duel. Even if you could win it, they're not going to present those to you. Sometimes what they do is they'll challenge an area of the map. So for a team like that, what I would do early on our T side is spread in a default, see if they try to aggro anything, and then try to work an area of the map that we want to get control of, and then from there go into a set execute. Um, that tends to be a very, very effective strategy in general. But if I was going to choose between like, let's go pick heavy kind of NA style, let's go execute heavy a little EU style, it's going to be a lot of who I'm playing, how my team is playing, who my teammates are. If we're playing FPL and I don't have the best players in FPL, it'll probably be a lot more utilities trying to flash the players shooting at us than it will be let's just run and take aim duels. So hopefully that answered the question. Appreciate the question coming in there, Karma. I'm gonna jump back to the forums, and this is actually a great question, and I honestly don't have a set answer in my head, so this was going to be complete improv. My team is moving up, comes from Devine. My team is moving up to Maine from IM next season, keeping the same 5 players. They have pretty much everything laid out on all maps from last season. What do I suggest that they work on to prepare for the following season? So that'll be their first season in Maine, but with the same 5 they had on IM. And I think that's great. I think there needs to be more teams that do that kind of thing, where they kind of progress up the ladders of the different divisions of the league. What I would suggest is to figure out the maps that you're weakest on and drill those, right? Like immediately identify what your weaknesses are on a map level, right? And say, hey, listen, we lost three times last season, or 10 times last season, or however many times you lost, and 4 of them were on Cobble, 1 of them was on Mirage, and 2 of them were on Cache, or whatever the case may be. And drill those maps. Figure out what side of the map you're struggling on, and work on that. Because the stronger your map pool, the better you're going to be, because the maps get set at the main level. Assuming you're in Civo main, the maps are set in advance, so you have to play every map. You can never just like, this map will never play because that'll always be Arvito. You can't do that. So I would strengthen your map pool for sure. And then I would go back and just make sure everybody's working on stuff, and then I would add 2 or 3 different things to each map if you can. Because having like set executes and set things that you do, if one team scouts that and they know how you play Dust 2 or Mirage or whatever map, and you don't have anything new, it's very easy for them to go back and look at who you've played and how you've played and scout that. I don't know you'll have too much to worry about with that in Maine, but when it comes to getting close to playoff time, you probably will. Um, but I mean, I think that you're so far ahead of the game that you guys, assuming that the individual talent is there, you guys will probably do very well, keeping the same vibe, keeping the chemistry, and kind of grinding up to maybe get into Premier next season. So good luck to you guys. It's awesome. And I know it wasn't a super thorough and in-depth answer, but it's very rare for teams to do that. And like I said, I think you're so far ahead that if you just button up some of your weaknesses, you'll be in really good shape for the season. And the last question I'll answer from the forums: will the Brazilians, Luminosity, be dominant with the recent successful changes of performance? Will they be the top team in NA? I actually do think they will be. I think that having played all the teams in Pro League last season, Luminosity and Games Academy, who wasn't in Pro League, were the 2 teams that I felt had better teamwork than us by so far a margin that even if all of our players were just absolutely hitting their shots, we would still possibly lose against them. And it's very, very rare that I felt like that's been the case in North America. We've beaten almost every team in the Pro League at least once, and I've got a good feel of the styles, of the way that some of the other teams call, the other teams play, and Luminosity's teamwork is incredible. I think they had a little bit of a weakness in some of their players. And when I say a little, I don't mean it was like, it wasn't like they had one player up here and then the other players were like super, super far down. I mean, they were really good players that they replaced, but the players that they replaced them with are really nuts. And so that roster individually is scary. The teamwork that they developed on their old roster, if they can bring that to the new roster, yeah, I think we're going to see them be pretty dominant. I know a lot of the other teams. I think CLG announced that they're bringing in a coach from Europe. I know there's going to be a big NA shuffle after the ESEA land. I don't know what changes teams can make to really compete with LG. If LG plays individually at the level that they did, and they bring in their teamwork and stuff that they haven't had a lot of time to develop with the 2 new players in Taco and FNX. Um, it's going to be scary, man. I really like watching those guys play. There's a lot that I learned watching them play, and I really do think. I don't think that was a. I don't think that was a fluke. I don't think that was a one-hit wonder type of event, and I'm really looking forward to them kind of teaching. One thing that I think they can do is teach a lot of NA by way of just demolishing teams, right? Like if they come out and they just 16-6 the first 4 maps of the season for next season, I think teams are going to take notice, and maybe you'll see them start to kind of get influenced by the play style of LG, and I think that's really good for North America if that's the case. And that's it. Appreciate the questions. Again, Ask Ryu is the hashtag on Twitter. There is an AMA thread on the forums. Um, I've got 2 or 3 more questions that I'm kind of saving in the bag. I know there's going to be questions about FPL, so if you have them, feel free to ask, because I know that's kind of big and a big mover and shaker right now in the North American scene. And looking forward to answering some of those questions. I think the FPL is going to be really awesome, really big for NA. And with that, that's episode 6. Appreciate you guys watching, and I will see you next time.